Okay, so everybody, welcome to Andrew's classroom. Remember all, let's go into the chat box and give us your check-in word for today. So it's a word that describes how you're feeling or anything actually. So go right ahead, get those fingers exercising. Laniel, you be careful because you're driving, but put in a word to describe how everybody's doing today. Okay, oh, Andrew's feeling vibrant. Anna's excited. Beautiful. Let's admit Abigail into the room. Karen says productive and ready for the session. Shivani, pretty chilled. Famida, positive. Oh, beautiful. Some lovely words there. Okay, some more words, everybody. Give us some words to describe. Christy, fantastic. Good morning from Puerto Rico. Oh, la la, that sounds amazing. Nice. Okay, Sue Marie says she's excited. Okay, some more. Give us some more. Hilani says super. Okay, divine. Don't be shy to put your cameras on, everybody, because then you can join this classroom. Samantha says excited. Tahida says happy Tuesday, everybody. Okay, beautiful. Happy Tuesday to you. And Samantha again is saying hello from Zambia. So it's beautiful. We have Puerto Rico, we have Chicago, we have North Carolina, we have Zambia. Wow, where are you, Andrew? What country are you in right now?
Today I'm in Sweden.
Oh, here, Sweden.
Back at home.
Hey, this is pretty amazing. Hey, small group, but massive amount of countries represented, which is amazing. Okay, Sue Marie says hello from South Africa. Beautiful. Okay, well, we have the privilege of Cindy. Hello from Tennessee. Nice. And her word is enthusiastic. Beautiful. Karen, have you given us your check-in word? Because I saw Karen logging in. Let me see. Abigail, hello from South Africa. Hello, Abigail. Lovely to have you with us. All right, Andrew, let's dive right in. I'm super excited to hear what you have to tell us about elevating our status. Something that every single one of us, whether we are in a management or in a director role or in a CEO role or even actually in a therapist role, can use this amazing input to grow and evolve in our industry. So off you go.
Well, the first thing I have to say is it's a bit strange that I'm talking to a whole load of women and here I am, a white man living in Sweden, giving you guys career advice. But I do believe that some of the things I'm going to say will help anybody, irrespective of what you're doing and what stage of your life you're in and anything else like that. I want to start by perhaps just talking a little bit about my career, because I often, when I tour around the world and often when I'm speaking, people say, oh, how do you get your job? How did you get that job? So I think that's quite a good start to give you, and I'm not going to spend too long going through my background. You can always look at it at LinkedIn or whatever, but there are a couple of things that are quite important. The first was that I actually, pretty much when I left school, I went to a school that didn't particularly encourage people to go to university. Only 4 people from our school actually went to university. So I thought, okay, what am I going to do? And cut a long story short, I thought I'd try banking in the City of London, because I live not too far from London. And I felt that would be a nice, safe job with lots of money, and you get a wife at the age of 27, a couple of kids by the age of 30, your own house, and everything will be hunky-dory. And that could have probably worked out, because I've still got friends that I know from my home in England that did pretty much that. But I had a couple of changes in my life that occurred and got me into the industry that I'm in today. The first was that one of my teachers at school said to me, have you heard of this new phenomena? It's called summer camps in America. And they're setting British students can go out there and work on a summer camp. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll try that. And fortunately, I got selected to go out there and do that. And that was a life-changing thing. I worked on a Jewish camp in Pennsylvania and had an absolute blast of a time. And they also had quite of an interesting thing, having this Protestant white English guy with a funny accent talking to them and looking after their kids. But I did go into the banking. And then at the bank, I played soccer quite well, which ended up with me spending more time playing soccer for the bank and representing the bank than actually doing any city banking. And that meant that I decided to go back out to America and coach soccer. And that led into the change that I'm in now, because back when I was playing soccer out in California, somebody said to me, your forte in life is to go into recreation and leisure. And I thought, that's interesting. What is that? I don't even know what that means, but it sounds good. And I came back to university and decided to go to university and study. And I studied two absolutely brand new subjects that were just on the curriculum. One was called recreation management, which exists quite worldwide now. And the other one was environmental conservation. We didn't have sustainability in those days. It was environmental conservation. And from there, I evolved and moved into the industry I'm in. And so I wasn't a therapist, I wasn't a fitness instructor, I wasn't any of those. I became a health club instructor and sort of worked my way through that. And I finished sort of my hotel career as the global VP of wellness for Accor. Along that journey, each step of the way of moving along it, I was very fortunate on one thing. And that one thing was that the industry itself was growing very quickly. I would like to say that the hotel spa industry evolved out of the hotel fitness industry. And I think it's going through another evolution today, which heralds a whole new bunch of jobs, where the spas are now evolving into the wellness industry and hotels. So I'm going to cover a little bit of sort of career in that path, but just to also ensure a couple of other things that I'm going to cover. One is, I guess not all of you are working in hotels. Some of you are working in probably family-run health clubs, perhaps even or spas, or perhaps even you own and operate your own facility. And some of you are working in maybe even in franchises. So that's one area I want to cover, is that what are the career prospects if you're not working in a hotel, but you're working in a smaller operation or a private operation. And then the second thing I want to cover, or the other third factor I guess I want to cover, is you don't necessarily have to seek promotion. You don't necessarily have to further your career. You might be at a stage where you're very, very comfortable with what you've got. But if you are comfortable with what you've got, you still need to be thinking about certain factors to keep yourself relevant, to keep yourself fresh, and to keep the people interested in what you're doing. So I want to cover those various things. Let's start with you as a person. If you want to progress your career, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking about the spa and wellness industry, or quite frankly, any other industry, the first things you've got to do, and it's absolutely essential, is know yourself. And that means taking a little bit of a look at yourself and determining what are the values in your life? What are the really big values? And if you can instantly write down 3 values now of what your values are, then you're already one step forward, because a lot of people can't even do that. They don't even know what are their most important values. And I'm not judging, and I don't have any claims to what the right values are, because there are no right values. But things like honesty, things like spending time with your family, that's something for me when I was traveling 22 days a month worldwide, became something that I really valued, was the quality time I was able to have with my family, because it was so small. So is it money? Are you chasing the dollar? Not necessarily anything wrong with that, but if you know what your values are, that can help determine where you want to go in your career. Then, having known what your values are, you can then say, okay, am I in the right job? Am I in the right industry? Do I want to shift, or do I want to think of something else? And if I am in the right industry, what are the paths ahead that I can seek, and how do I get there? So that, I think, is the first really big major point, is to understand yourself and to know what your values are. Once you do that, you create your brand. You are a brand. And I didn't understand that, didn't even understand the value of what that meant. I am my own brand, until one of my spa directors from Singapore told me, Andrew, you are your brand. You are promoting your brand to all of us when you travel around the world and when you see us. And that's where we buy into that brand, or we don't buy into that brand. And that's exactly the same with all of you. So what does that mean? Well, obviously, starting with the values is important. But secondly, making people aware of your skill set. That's also important. And making people know which direction and where you want to go. So if you don't know where you want to go, how is your potential employer going to be able to find that job for you? So that's really, really important, to know the values, to build your own brand, and then to start promoting your own brand. And that applies to anything at all. In our industry, it is a particular challenge to try and find a career if you want to stay within the spa industry. And we'll get to the wellness industry in a minute, but if you want to stay in the spa industry, it's a challenge. Once you've reached that lovely position of spa director, where do you go from there? What are the next roles? And that is the question that I most commonly get asked. And when I was a corporate spa director, everybody said, well, I want your job next. That's what I want. I want the corporate jobs. But of course, the corporate jobs are, one, they are not so many of them. And two, in fact, they've actually reduced, if anything. We had a golden spell about 5 years ago globally, where a corporate team was built by many of the hotels. And unfortunately, throughout COVID, many of them have been let go and have been cut down. And now we have the rise of the consultant. And everybody now is a spa expert and a spa consultant. But that's a much cheaper route for the corporate hotel groups to go down, is to hire people on a contract basis, as opposed to having them fully employed. There are still a couple of hotel groups. Six Senses in particular is a very good one for having a corporate team around their spa and wellness. But if you take, for example, Accor, the company I used to work for, Hyatt, Marriott Starwood, Intercontinental Group, all of these people have really reduced the headcount of their corporate wellness teams. However, what do you do if you do want to become that corporate position? Well, now you've got your values, you've got your brand, you know who you are. The next thing I think is really important is to, one, find the roadmap to it. And that means speaking with your HR, speaking with your direct manager, and making people aware that you're interested. And then two is making yourself relevant. And by relevant, I think it's important that you are able to show a good understanding of what's going on in the industry. And one of the best ways of doing that is doing what you're actually doing right now, and that is networking and communicating. When I was working in Cyprus, I'd had my own little spa in Cyprus, and it wasn't little, it was 30,000 square meters, so it was quite big. But I had my operation in Cyprus, and I had a vision of wanting to create 10 of these around Europe. And I thought to myself, and I was at those days, believe it or not, quite an introverted person, quite shy. But I knew that if I wanted to get more of these projects around the world or around Europe, I would need to build up my contacts. So I went to an event called, it was actually called Professional Beauty. You may know it, but it was in 2001. And it was in Celtic Manor in Wales. And I registered myself and went there, and I knew nobody, absolutely nobody there. But they had a couple of events, and one of them was on the first day. We had some tennis at the event, and that tennis, of course, it was an icebreaker, but it got me talking to some people that are still my friends today that I've known. And then, since then, you start to know, okay, they're the cool guys over in the corner. They're all drinking, and you have to be in with that clique. And there, oh, these ladies run this group of spas over there. You better get talking to that clique. And slowly you network. And by building up that network, you start to get recognition. People know who your name is. So when that corporate job comes and they start to look outside of their group, your name comes up because somebody knew somebody or talked about it, and they can see that you were networking. And that's why I think Marissa does a really good job in networking this group. I met Marissa a long time ago when I was down in South Africa doing an event down there. And we've kept in contact ever since. And it really does help build up your global network. To give you how important that is, not only does it help in kind of where your career now is, I'm now at a stage in my life where I've retired. Now, retired for me means that I do not work for anybody but myself. And I choose which jobs. I'm fortunate that I've got enough money to be able to say, which jobs do I want to do? Which jobs do I like? And which jobs don't I like? But I did that, and I have no website. I have my email address and my contacts. And in the last year, well, let's put it this way. We're now in March, and I've already got enough contracts to last me for the rest of this year and most of next year, just by people speaking to me and saying, hey, Andrew, remember you did this for us here, or that happened here, or, or we like what you do. I've got a landscape architect, for example, that's working on a project in Morocco. And he said, hey, they need some advice on wellness. So I've put your name forward, and the owner gets hold of me and says, hey, Philip said, you do this, do you do it? And so that's how it works. So starting early, and I started in 2001, building my network up. And it has been really, really probably one of the best things I did. The second thing that's attached to that is that it also got me the opportunity to speak. And that only happened because I said, hey, yeah, I'd like to speak. I'd like to talk about such and such. And I can almost remember my very first presentation I did. It was getting a kind of a book out. I am talking about this, and it was so robotic and monotonous. I'm surprised anybody asked me to come back. But what it did, it suddenly made me the expert. People were very interested, and I found a lot of experts around the world that I would question whether they're truly experts or not. But hey, they're known, everybody likes them, and they seem to get all the great jobs. And I can assure you that many of them haven't got their great jobs based on their ability. It's based on their contacts, their network, and their ability to be able to communicate and deliver. So I think that's really important for your career. And if you want to get into the corporate world, that's how you're going to achieve that. So let's do a quick recap there, because then I'm going to get on to the next part. Establish your values, know your own brand, promote your own brand, network, get yourself seen, and become the expert. And that's how you'll get moving forward in that role. Now, within the hotel itself, let's say you don't want to move to a corporate role, and let's say you want to become, if you're in a hotel, for example, you want to get into the management of the hotel. And that's not an unreasonable expectation. It keeps you in your location where you live in. You carry on working with your people, and you have that opportunity to be able to work in an environment that you're comfortable with. Well, probably many of you have wondered why that doesn't seem to happen. Why don't spa directors become general managers of hotels? Does anybody hazard a guess on that? No. This is worldwide. I've lived in about 10 countries, and I mean lived means actually living for more than 2 years in those countries. And that means you start to get immersed in the culture, the understanding the language. I've also lectured at universities in Singapore, in hotel schools in Cornell and Lausanne, and various universities around the world. And there's quite a few, Marissa, quite a few people trying to come in, if you admit them. And the universal thing I have found as to why it's very difficult for spa directors to get into the hotel management side of things is, in my opinion, generally because in the hotel training schools, the best ones in the world, like Lausanne and Cornell in America, Lausanne in Switzerland, is that they don't even have spa and wellness on the curriculum to train these people that are going into hospitality management. The last time I checked at Cornell, a future general manager would spend half of their curriculum learning about food and beverage, maybe 2 weeks just studying on wines, 1/3 of their time studying engineering, 1 week optional to study the spa. In 3 years, 1 week optional. So they're not trained to understand how the spa works. That's why they've got us guys there working and managing the spas. But the flip side of that, and the bad part of that, is that they don't think that we have the qualifications to manage the hotel. And that could not be further from the truth. If you think about the spa director and all of the roles that you have to do, from being the agony aunt, to work in the finances, to presenting financial forecasts, to doing the inventory and stock control, you actually cover virtually every other department of the hotel just in your own micromanagement of your own department. And you're quite competent to be a manager. In my career, I've only ever seen one person that I've managed to get from therapist all the way up to general manager of a hotel. And that hotel group was a wellness hotel company. So it was a company that was more embracing and recognition of his particular skills. And I say his because he was also a man, which I think had certain connotations on that as well. But the breakthrough point that enabled that particular person to become a general manager was simply a piece of fortune, and that was that the current general manager resigned under pressure, and they needed somebody interim to step in and help until they appointed somebody, and he volunteered and said, I can do that. And whether he could or couldn't, they said, okay, we'll give him a chance, and he was able to prove himself. Again, he made himself known, and he stated what he could do. So I think that's really, really important. If you are working in a private place, then I think sometimes the career path is more difficult to figure out. It may be okay in your existing organization, but how do you jump into a new job? Where do you find it? Well, fortunately today, there are a lot more recruitment agencies out there that specialize. And those recruitment agencies are quite good at finding out who you are and what you're good at, and then promoting you. However, you have to, again, remember you are promoting your own brand. So those recruitment agencies might have 50 or 60 applicants on the book. And the recruitment agency is only really out for one thing, and that is fill that space as fast as possible and get the biggest commission they can. So how are you going to make sure that out of that 50, you've got the best opportunity? Again, building relationships. There is a company in the UK called the PSD Group. They are a headhunting agency in the UK. The head of their leisure hospitality, she's the chief executive, is a lady called Leslie Reynolds. Leslie Reynolds was a young lady just starting her career that got me my very first overseas posting in Abu Dhabi in 1985. We have kept in contact, we exchanged Christmas cards and so on like that. Now, as CEO, I have the ability to ring her up and say, yeah, hey, Leslie, I'd like to go and work in South Africa. And I know that she would be top of the list for me, and I would be her top of her list, and she would be able to go out and say, Andrew, well, we haven't quite got anything because I know who you are and it doesn't quite fit, but hey, what about this particular job? Or I could say to Leslie, no, I don't want to look at jobs for less than 150,000 a year. And she said, okay, well, there aren't very many of those around, but here's one or two, and you don't fit that criteria. But I've got that ability. But how did that start? It started in 1985 when she was just starting her career, needing to place somebody. And I was the lucky guy that got placed by her. And then we've kept in contact. So I really, really want to stress that. That's you as your brand. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is something slightly different. And that is, how do you get into this concept of wellness? As I said, I wasn't a therapist or a fitness guy. I just happened to be lucky enough to have done my degree and got into the first hotel that was opening up a wellness, a leisure center, they called it at that time. It wasn't even a spa, although it had a lot of spa-like features. And I then have been also very lucky to follow kind of the evolution. So when the spa industry kind of got created, and that got created as a concept, because it always existed before, but as a concept that was then branded and sold, really occurred in around about 2001 to 2003. And as I said, I went to that very first conference at Celtic Manor a long time ago. Well, I could see that that was going to change. And I was a country club manager in Oman in those days, where I could see this change coming. And I thought, well, you know what? Seems to be a lot more people buying saunas and steam rooms and creating treatment rooms. I'm going to see if I can get into that industry. And so I moved into that industry. And then I just happened to be very, very lucky. Well, I would say lucky, but it was, you can say lucky. 2006, there was a conference, a tiny little conference in Singapore. It was called Turning Point in 2006. That conference, there was Susie Ellis at that conference. How many of you know her or have heard of her? Yeah, Global Wellness Institute president and founder. Well, Susie, myself, and about another 10 people got together after the conference and said, hey, we might be onto something here. You know, there are spa associations, but there's nothing really for spa directors and decision makers. Let's form the Global Spa Summit. So we created that. And I was a board member and a founder of that. That has enabled me to get a global reputation just by being in the right place at the right time and being open to the ideas. Then about 4 years ago, at the Global Wellness Summit, actually, a group of us got together and said, let's create the Wellness Tourism Association, because we could see wellness tourism was evolving and needed to be defined and characterized, as opposed to just general tourism. but it needed to be defined and created. And so I said, yeah, all right. And they said, can you be chairman? I said, well, yeah, I love that. Chairmans are great because chairman just has to boss everybody and tell them what to do and not do very much themselves. I love that title. Anyway, so that got me again noticed, and that led into a whole new line of work in what was now the wellness tourism industry. So to all of you, I'm kind of giving that backdrop because now we are at a really significant change that has been accelerated a lot by COVID, although it was already taking place anyway, and that is the evolution into wellness. So that creates a whole new load of jobs that I can't even describe those jobs to you. What I can tell you is you get yourself into wellness, get yourself understanding that. And I'm going to give you some examples now of how you can get into wellness. So let's start for those of you that are working in hotels. That is very, very easy. Make yourself relevant. Step out of the box of the spa and step out of the box of the fitness or the swimming pool and step into the arena of the hotel. That means that you are going to use your resources, your local contacts, to provide wellness for your colleagues. You're going to work with your human resources team, and it could be as simple as bringing in somebody at lunchtime in the staff canteen talking about nutritious eating. It could be working with the chef and creating nutritious food for the people. And a very good story there. Mandarin Oriental, Bangkok, one of the most prestigious hotels in Thailand, if not in the world. The Mandarin Oriental, Bangkok, the chef absolutely was set in how he wanted to create his food. A new general manager came along and said, well, chef, I want you to create the food for the staff canteen. We're no longer buying food in and serving rubbish food to them. You're a master chef. You create. I will invest in the canteen in the area. So the general manager did. And that chef, from that day onwards, ate in the staff canteen. What message does that send out to all of the other employees? So you can do that. If you've got yoga teachers, all right, what's wrong with starting a yoga class for your colleagues? Getting them embraced in it. What it does is it communicates to your management that you, one, have a passion for what you're doing. That's really essential. Two, you have an interest in the welfare and the success of the entire hotel and all your employees. And three, you're a creative person. You're a go-getter. So that subconsciously goes in there so that when something does come up, they can say to you, hey, you know what? Sue Marie is absolutely brilliant. And that's the person we want to do this job. Or Christy, we're going to, we like what you're doing. You're going to be our next, we'd like you to be participating in our HR team and working with us. So that's one role. The second role is to get engaged with Wellness Weekend, get engaged with Global Wellness Day, get engaged with the Wellness Tourism Association and find out where your regional people is, get on board with the Global Wellness Institute's task force and volunteer yourself into those positions. Because it does two things. One, it educates you and gives you a wealth of knowledge. And two, it puts your name out there. And three, it looks great on the CV when you write that down, or on your LinkedIn connections. You'll see loads of people say, I'm a global wellness ambassador. Well, what does that mean? Nobody really knows what it means. What they do know is, hey, that sounds pretty cool. And that's very good. And they get known. So that, I think, is really important. The other area is going to be corporate wellness. So creating packages, whether you're in a private company or whether you're in a hotel, is creating corporate wellness programs for the local community, and then get networking out to through whatever magazines, websites, Facebook sites. For example, the village I live in here, we have our own village Facebook page, and all the community events are put on there, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's a really good network to know what's going on in our community. And of course, if I don't have to promote myself too much because I'm the weird Englishman living in this strange Swedish village, so everybody knows who I am. But I volunteer for all kinds of things with them. Why? Because I want them to accept me into this community. So I'm promoting my brand to my community. And in fact, we're probably going to build something to do with wellness here in the village that adds on to all of the other things that we already do. So wellness is an evolving thing. The other thing I think is great for hotels. So again, I don't want to spend too much time talking about myself, but I'm trying to use things I've done as examples. When Accor acquired Fairmont and Raffles hotels, I was very nervous, as we all were, whether we would have jobs or not, because of course, two big giants get together, the corporates join together, and that's a great excuse for the accountants to save a whole bunch of money and cut a whole load of people. And in fact, all of the directors of Fairmont eventually got terminated, apart from two of us, me and the chief information officer, which is kind of important if you want all your software systems to keep going. Me, not so important, but somebody felt I was. But then this was the jackpot for me. They said, well, Andrew, would you like to work with us? I said, yes, of course, to work with now all of these brands and 5,000 hotels worldwide. Yes. I said, okay, well, what would you like to do? Oh, okay. I don't want to be global spa director because everybody knows what that is. I'm going to be global VP of well-being. I think I'll be VP of well-being. Well, you can imagine these hoteliers. What on earth is that? I said, exactly. You have no idea what that is. I am going to educate this company into what well-being is. I'm no longer looking after spas and fitness. I'm working with your design teams on the interiors of the guest rooms. I'm working with the complete design focus on how we get movement around the hotel to create subconscious wellness around this hotel. I'm working with the food and beverage teams and the brand managers on how we can bring nutrition into it and healthy eating into it, apart from just sticking the calories on the menu. So it now broadened my role massively and almost made me indispensable in the company because it opened up a latitude of work. And that was something that now, if you have a look at most of the hotel corporates, they actually have the title well-being or wellness in the head of wellness or head of well-being. Still, it's an uphill struggle to get them to understand that the hotel needs to be completely thought from a wellness perspective and not just a spa in the basement, which is, but that's something we are working on with them and trying to get them to perceive it. And of course, the big advantage of that, and the big advantage to all of you out there in career-wise, is that the public are demanding it. There is a massive, well, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, there is a massive welling and upsurge of wellness-related activities in vacation time. And if you actually think of the whole concept of vacation in itself, that was something that was actually done in the Victorian times to actually give people a break and recover and recharge and all the R words that we use in wellness to get themselves ready to go back to the other 51 weeks a year they work. But we are kind of coming full circle into that. So I do think that wellness is here to stay and it will evolve in many, many different aspects. And how are you going to get involved in it? Is to get yourself known, to say what you want to do, where you want to go, to network, to do volunteering onto the different things that I mentioned, like global wellness, wellness weekend ambassadors, post blogs. I was astonished, absolutely astonished. In my last job, I posted on my LinkedIn and said, hey, you know, I've got a job for, I need counselors and I need guides and I need people in nutrition and I need this and that and the other. Didn't tell them where the job was. I didn't tell them what the salary was. I said, are you interested? I had 7,000 applicants. I was blown away. And out of that, we narrowed it down to 150. 150, all of them had PhDs in something, whether it was nutrition, fitness, or so on. Still, they didn't know where they were going to work. And it was amazing to be able to do that. That's what building your network does for you. I don't post often, but when I do post, I try to post something meaningful or something that's important to me. I think if you overpost, people then get fed up and they stop reading what you're writing. But if you post significantly, then I think it's well worth it. So I can just see a note, because I'm actually coming to the end. Marissa, can I give 5 tips on networking to the community? Yeah, I can. I think one is that if you actually do a little bit of research into your community, you will find that there's some fantastic experts out there that can actually communicate and help your employees and your guests. It's astonishing what people are doing, because this whole concept of prevention and living a wellness life and a healthy life isn't just a domain to our industry just because we label it. It's available for everybody. And there are so many people engaged in it that aren't necessarily even in our industry. So find out who's out there and how can you embrace them. For example, one of the things I want to do is in this community, the village I live in here, is I want the kids to understand about the significance of honeybees. So I'm arranging with a beekeeper, and I'm arranging because I know the headmistress of the school, to get the headmistress to have some class groups go out and actually be there and see where the honey's coming from, how he gets it out there, and so on. And that's a very educational, fun thing to do. So I think that's important. Another tip I think is great is to, if you've got employees and that have got skills, your yoga teacher, your fitness instructor, or something like that, offer some welcome days for the local community to come in and have them. You can choose the times, you can choose where and when, you can choose the venues. If you're in a hotel, you've normally got meeting rooms and something like that, and do some simple diagnostics or do some group yoga or do something like that, and make the people aware and show that actually you as a spa director, or now the wellness director, you're providing wellness for guests that are paying, you're providing wellness for your employees, including your own team, and you're providing wellness to the local community. And that's good karma, because it will come back to you in all kinds of ways. And all you've got to do is convince your general manager that, and your accountant, probably the accountant more, because they'll be saying, yeah, but that costs money, all this free tea we've got to give away. Get over it. The good karma that comes out of that is really significant. So was that 3 or 4 tips, Marissa? I've got one more. One more tip. Yeah, I think is to volunteer your time in some activity within the community, to volunteer and do something, or attend a community meeting. I was having a conversation with my wife the other day, and we were talking about one of these massive topics that we were talking about why is there so much poverty in so many countries when we have the ability to eradicate poverty, and therefore what was the best way of eradicating poverty? The best way, in my opinion, the best way of eradicating poverty is education. It's like you don't give a man a fish, you give him a fishing rod and teach him to fish, because that is sustainable. So I think education is really, really important. And part of that education means that a lot of people in communities have no idea what the local council are doing. They have no idea how their tax funds are being spent in their local community. So if you want to volunteer for anything, go and attend a couple of council meetings and actually see what's going on in your community, what's being planned in your community, because I bet there's an opportunity for you to help in some way. And that also, whether you're staying in that community to live and have your career, or whether you want to move to another community, it always looks good to your employer to see you're a go-getter, you're passionate, you're dynamic, you're out there, and you are doing good for the world. And on that note, I will finish and hand over to any questions.
Thank you so much.
Or any
Yeah.
chat.
Well, yeah, let's see if we've got any questions. Does anybody want to ask Andrew some questions on this amazing topic of elevating your status?
The weird noise, by the way, sorry, is she's about to, I just better get you her in view. She's been sitting patiently by me. So she's been sitting patiently saying, come on, Dad, I want to go out for a walk. Let's have some questions. Let's have some questions.
Oh, shame. Okay, let's get
Andrew, I have a question.
Yeah. Who's speaking?
It's Shani.
Shani.
How long did it take you to build your network? And you know, when you started putting yourself out there and networking and becoming the expert? I know it's different. How long is a piece of string?
I don't like to use the word expert. I'm just a guy that's been in a lot of places and seen a lot of things. But the network itself, as I say, it really started global network really started in 2001, I think it was, when that Celtic Manor event took place. That's when it started to take place. Prior to that, I lived in a country called Oman, and I lived in Muscat in Oman. Beautiful country, beautiful people, loved it. But I was the country club manager of a country club. By the time I left there, I was the country club manager of 4 of the hotels. I ran His Majesty's Dive Centre. I had created an international yacht race through the Straits of Hormuz. I was the chairman of the tennis leagues, which I started. I was chairman of the squash leagues that I started. And we had something absolutely bizarre and unique to Oman. It was called the raft race. The raft race would attract around about 5,000 people would come to it, and they could build their teams. To build a team, you had to get 6 oil drums, weld them together in a pontoon, and then row them, and then 6 people sitting on them and row them around the course in the sea. I had the Royal Navy enter, the Royal Police Force enter it, as well as individuals and companies and so on, and it was the biggest carnival. That made me get known throughout Oman. Just everybody in Oman knew who I was. And I make you laugh. I was Mr. Leisure. Now, if you take the Arabic word of leisure, I was the no work manager, and I was fine being the no work manager because leisure is no work. It's the time outside of work. So I was the no work manager. Very nice title. Does that answer the question?
Yes. And do you think it's an appropriate practice to put into place to help elevate our staff by, I wouldn't say forcing them, but creating an opportunity where they are put in a position that they have to network? And how do we do that?
Okay. First of all, when I was looking after all of these properties all over the world and traveling so much, the first people I would go and meet, I'd have a meeting for all of the staff that worked under the spa and wellness and everything like that. I would meet them all, and I wouldn't have anything much more to say than just motivational. And the best motivational would you get one of the therapists and say, I believe in you. I believe you can do it. Can you do it? And I'd look them in the eye and make them do it. But it's really important, and it's a life lesson it's a life lesson throughout whatever you do. Respect everybody. The most important person quite often is the spa attendant that's in the cloakroom picking up the towels or opening the door. Why? Because they are catching people when they're most vulnerable. They're in the changing room, they're getting changed, they may be naked, they're a little bit insecure. This person at that moment has the opportunity to create a memorable experience for them. They can do it simply by being thoughtful, getting them a clean, dry towel, opening the door for them with a smile, remembering their name. All of those little touch points inspire. So I would say every single person, that's what I would go into my meetings, every single one of you is contributing towards the success of the stay for the guest. Now, coming to your question, should you kind of force them into networking? No, I don't think you should coerce anybody into doing anything like that, quite frankly. But the art of leadership is making other people do what you want them to do because they want to do it. I'll say that again. Making people do what you want them to do because they want to do it. And so if you want to get them networking, you just encourage them to volunteer, and you take it in small bites at a time. As I said, I remember when that first speech, I was like a robot reading off a piece of paper. I was dead nervous because I'm an introvert. That's my nature. I've done all these DISC and different analyses. I'm an introvert, but fortunately, I can make myself become extrovert and go out there and speak. And it's over time that you actually get better and better at it and are able to relax a little bit more. But people, I'm sure, will admire the fact that you got up on stage. They'll recognize you're nervous and you got up on stage and you publicly spoke. And most people are incredibly supportive about that. I also made it very much my purpose whenever I go to professional spa or global wellness or any of these events. I make myself available for students to be able to talk to me or anybody to be able. I never turn anybody away. I also make it possible. Why? Because when I'm 90 years old, I want that student who's now the general manager of Cape Town's waterfront hotel to say, Andrew, come and stay with me. I remember what you did for me all those years ago, and good karma. But I'm being a bit cheeky. But what I mean is, these are the next generation of people coming through. You help, and you motivate. And that makes them recognize you as a leader, somebody who's somebody they want to be the manager. They want to work for you. So I think it's very important that you guys do not coerce, but you encourage and you hold their hand almost, because they're probably incredibly nervous. It's a bit like now I say, okay, any questions? All of you have got something in your mind, but you don't want to be the first one that asks it because it might be embarrassing or it could put you on the spot. It doesn't. It actually is the first step to your networking. Yeah.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Love it. Andrew, one more question that I think might help everybody here, because most people attend professional beauty or even just conferences in their area, is, again, 1 or 2 tips on how do they network at a conference? What would be, and what would be a good way to start?
Okay. So the first thing, of course, is to find out who's going, or who you want to see speak, or what stands do you want to speak to. I'll give you another example of that. This is amazing, and I just remembered this one. So I had this dream that I wanted to create my own wellness center, and I didn't know where I'd do it. So I started off saying, where would I like to live in the world? And my wife and I just said, we'd like to live in Cyprus. It speaks English, it's close to England, close to Sweden, nice climate, nice food, nice everything. So what should I do? I'll create a tennis academy. Okay, I'll ask Bjorn Borg and Stefan Edberg, 2 of the world's greatest players, if they'd like to do this with me. Well, they said yes, they would. But that blew my mind straight away. Then it turns out that on Cyprus is one of Stefan Edberg's best friends, who was also one of the referees for the International Tennis Federation. And he introduced me to the president of the Cyprus Tennis Federation, who happened to have the presidency for the European Tennis Association for that year. And then they invited me to come and speak at it. And that gave me the chance to put my idea forward to Germany, Finland, Norway, Sweden, and have them use us as a winter headquarters. So networking. But it got even better. I went to professional beauty again in England. This was actually one in Birmingham at that time. And I said, I need some gym equipment for my because by now it wasn't just a tennis academy, it was a wellness center I was building. Again, we don't need to go why, but my aspirations grew. Now I'm building a wellness center. So I thought to myself, I need a gym. Okay, I don't want to buy £100,000 worth of gym equipment. There's this company, they're training people to become personal trainers. They're going to be at that show. I'm going to go up to them and ask some questions. So I did. I went up to this guy and I said, you don't know who I am. My name's Andrew Gibson, and well, I've got this thing in Cyprus. And you know what? It might be a good idea if you open up your first international class at my center. You can set a class of personal training of trainers in Cyprus, because we've got 2 military bases there, and so you can train all these soldiers coming out to become personal trainers, which was his business model. So I said, yeah, that's brilliant. So I got to him, I said, by the way, I need you to buy all the gym equipment for me that will go in my gym, and you give me 2 personal trainers on your salary that work there. He said, yes, okay. Oh, what? Okay, great, fantastic. And that's how we got that started. I didn't have to buy my gym equipment. Why was it? Again, just pure luck. First of all, I happened to be talking to the chairman. He just happened to be on the stand when I spoke to him. I didn't know that, but that's who I spoke to. Secondly, they were trying to go public and make the code public, and they wanted to have international status on there. So boom, I was the person that created that for them and made that happen. Just pure luck, but it was luck of going up and talking to him, and that's how it happens. So it is. Don't be afraid. And I can tell you, if any of you come up to me at a show and say, hi, I know you're going to be a bit nervous. My name's Christy or Abigail. I'll say, hi, how can I help you? And you can ask the dumbest question, and it's just an icebreaker. And then we get talking. And that's how it works. And I think that's really important, because you need to know who's at the show and then target out who you want to see. Try and get them at the coffee breaks or after they've just spoken. And as they're walking, don't be afraid to go up to them and say, hi, really loved what you said, or I really wanted to meet you. My name's so-and-so. I'm a student from Johannesburg or whatever. And they say, okay, fine. And 9 times out of 10, most of them will stop and say hello and give you a couple of words. And if they don't, they're not worth you talking to them. It's not you. They're at fault. If they don't stop and say hi and how can I help you, that's their loss. Yeah, but that's how you get it done.
Love it, love it, love it. So Andrew, are you able to put more people in the classroom? Can you push them down, and then I'll ask everybody to show their faces so we can take a picture just to check out, because this is like a very different class that we've ever done before. So everyone, let's show our faces for a group shot in Andrew's classroom. This is pretty cool, isn't this?
I can only get 20. I can only get 24 in, so I don't know. Alessandro, great to see you here. That's fantastic.
Yeah, how are you?
I am good. How are you doing?
Fine.
So Alessandro's from Italy, and he has the most beautiful, beautiful hotel in Sorrento. If you ever want to go and have yourself a nice time, that's a guy you've got to say hello to.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, nice. Hello, Alessandro.
Hello. Hi, girls.
And how we met, we probably met at a show, and his father kindly invited me to see his hotel. And we never did any work together, but we've remained good friends all the time, because they just have a wonderful property.
Yeah, we
Now you
opened a
have to
little
tell us the
spa
name.
using a lot of your suggestions. So
I'm very pleased. Good.
we've done many things following your ideas and your stimulation.
Very, very good.
That's amazing.
Okay, so you've got everybody there now, Marissa.
I'm going to take a screenshot. So everybody, you can all just smile and say cheers. I'm going to take a picture quickly. Okay, smile everyone. Love it. I've taken a picture, then we'll put it up later on. And thank you so much, Andrew. I'm done nagging you, but only for this half of the year. Maybe to the latter half of the year, I'll nag you a little bit more again, because we absolutely love your golden nuggets of information in this community group that we have got going, where the networking is also amazing, and we all are learning from each other and growing as a group. So thank you very much for your time. Everybody go into the chat box and please.
Well, I'll just finish on a recap of some really important things.
Yes, please do.
Know what your top 3 values in life are. Create your brand around them and promote your brand. You promote your brand. Who are you? What do you stand for? Okay?
Love it. Absolutely love it. Andrew, are you going to Professional Beauty or not?
On the 4th of April, I'll be there. So if anybody's there on the 4th of April, happy to say hello to you. And in fact, I've got a young student. She's just doing a very, very interesting dissertation up in Edinburgh on sustainability in hotels and what is the consumer's perception of it. That's her dissertation. She's coming down to London because she doesn't know anybody. And I've said, if you come to London, I will introduce you to some people in London that may be able to get you an internship. And that's somebody that I connected from that project in Spain.
Unbelievable. Well, Anna and I will be seeing you in London because we will be there on the 4th. So we will look forward to saying hi to you. And yes, and to meeting your colleague that you're bringing with. So everybody, let's go into the chat box, put your closing words, how you're feeling after the session, and then we'll say goodbye. So let's hear it, everyone. Go into, okay, so Karen says inspired. Tiffany says brilliant. Andrew says respect. Lanil says inspired. Abigail says excited. Anna says confidence. Okay, absolutely beautiful checkout words. So lovely, everybody. Depends on where in the world you are. Either have the best evening or have the most fabulous day. Joyce says she's motivated. Christy says definitely inspired to get to work today and make some networking calls. And Shani says, be sure to diarize our next event in April. Yes, and that's quite exciting as well. So we have Julie Callahan from Women in Wellness. I'm sure you all know of her or have heard of her, but she's also got an interesting topic on marketing. So be sure not to miss that. And that's it, everybody. Anna's asking what date. Check out on our Instagram or Facebook page, always there, as well as in our community group. We will post that session's link. There we go. Shani says 7th of April. Goody, goody. Andrew, thanks a lot.
Oh, you're most welcome. Most welcome. Thank you for inviting
and then
me.
I'll see you today in a week. Actually, how exciting.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful.
Awesome. Super, super. Okay, everybody.